afternoon, everyone. Today, we are on to the last group and to the last topic, and I am Audrey Labares. And I am going to discuss to you about the literary genres, traditions, and forms from different national literatures and cultures. And mainly, me and my groupmates are going to tackle the Asian, Anglo-American, Latin American, European, and African. Provide one country as an example for each continents or topics that we have, and we'll pick one from south, east, west, north, or even southeast, and even other parts of the continents. So first, let's start with the Asian tradition. What is the Asian tradition? Asian tradition encompasses a vast array of diverse cultural practices, encompassing everything from religious beliefs and philosophical viewpoints to social customs, festivals, and artistic expressions. Now that we are all familiar with this since we are under its vicinity, but let me explain it to you further. The Asian tradition really grew up from generation and it expanded a lot more. And ever since then, our traditions, even though the people around it, the people around our country or the people in our country changed, the traditions and the practices remain the same. Next is the Asian literature. The Asian literature encompasses a vast range of genres, historical periods, and cultural influences. The Asian's literature really improved and upgraded because the topics that before we were limited to talk about or even write literatures about it's now normalized, it's now being normalized, and it's being applied for bravery. That's it for my part, and I would like to call my groupmate Aliyah to continue our discussion. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I am Aliyah Simanish, and today I'll be talking about South Asia, India, and East Asia, China. Indian literature contains colonialisms, post-colonialisms, identity, language, and complexities. And here's an example of Indian literature. Let's start from the author itself. Valmiki was a legendary poet who is celebrated as the original author of epic Ramayana. Now let's talk about Ramayana. Long story short, Ramayana story is about a prince trying to save his wife from an evil king. This story amazed so many people that the part of the story of Ramayana, in the end of the story of Ramayana, got into a festival which is called Diwali. This Diwali is a festival which is the most and biggest festival celebrated in a year, because in the end of the story of Ramayana, when the prince defeated the evil king, everybody lit an oil lamp to guide them on their way back home, and everyone lit light lamps at Diwali to remember that light wins over dark and good wins over evil. And that's it from my reporting in South Asia. And now, let's move on to China literature or East Asia, China. China literature contains a wide range of genres, including poetry, prose, drama, and various forms of storytelling. And here's some examples of China literature. But let's start from the author itself, Confucius. Confucius is very well known for the first teacher advocated in welfare and also the one who spread education in China. And one of his works is the Analects. Now let's talk about the Analects. Analects made by Confucius. Analects made by Confucius is a set of writing about Confucius' life, what he thinks about the government, education, and ethics. Confucius was a Chinese philosopher, politician, and a teacher, whose knowledge of knowledge is benevolence, loyalty, and virtue. Confucius has a golden rule, which is, do not impose on what others you do not wish for yourself, which is in Tagalog, kung ayaw mong gawin sa'yo, huwag mong gawin sa iba. And that is my report, and thank you for listening. Confucius said that our greatest glory is not never in falling, but in rising every time we fall.
Good morning, everyone. I'm now Jewel KP, and these are the given parts of me. So first, we're going to talk about Southeast Philippines. Southeast Asian literature comes from countries like Philippines. The story is influenced by different cultures like Indian, Chinese, and Western. Most stories were passed down by word of mouth, or people telling stories to others. One of the writers of Southeast Asian is Jose Rizal. Jose Rizal was a Filipino hero and writer. He used his books to show the bad things the Spanish did during their rule. He helped Filipinos become aware and fight for freedom. One of the work of Jose Rizal is Noli Me Tangere, which means touch me not. It is a novel written by Jose Rizal. It talks about the unfair treatment of Filipinos by the Spanish. The book opened people's eyes and gave them courage to fight back. So, second, we talk about West and Central Iran. Literature from Iran and nearby countries is very old. It includes poems, stories, and religious texts. These writings talk about life, beliefs, heroes, and good versus evil. One of the writers of Iran is Ferdowsi. Ferdowsi was a famous poet from Iran. He wrote stories in the form of poetry. His goal was to keep Persian history and culture alive. One of the work of Ferdowsi is Shahnameh. Shahnameh means Book of Kings. It is a long poem written by the Ferdowsi. It tells stories of heroes, kings, battles, and lessons about right and wrong. So these are the given parts of me. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mirjal Imenya, and today we are going to talk about the literary genre of Anglo-American literature. So, what is Anglo-American literature? Anglo-American literature refers to the body of written works created by authors from English-speaking countries, such as United States, United Kingdom, or sometimes Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So, these are often grouped together because they share a common language, which is English. And they are also influenced by a similar historical and cultural background such as British colonialism and the spread of English as a global language. So these terms highlight that these countries are connected even though each has its own unique voice and history. Overall, the rich literary heritage of Anglo-American literature continues to enrich our own understanding of the world and ourselves, inspiring new generations of readers and writers alike. Now, let's talk about the British literature. British literature is a rich and diverse field that spans centuries, featuring a wide range of authors, genres, and themes. British literature also explored themes such as identity, power, nature, and change. Each period, like the Renaissance, modern, or Victorian, shows how authors responded to their words through language, storytelling, and style. It's one notable period in author, including William Shakespeare from the Renaissance period. Now, let's move on and get to know more about the famous English playwright, or also known as the Bard of Avon, William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was born on April 23, 1564, and died on April 23, year 1616. He was born and raised on Stratford-upon-Avon, and at the age of 18, he got married to this 26-year-old woman named Anne Hathaway, whom he had 3 children to. He then moved to London, where he became a successful writer and actor. Shakespeare wrote 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and several poems. His famous works include Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, and Othello. His writing is known for its deep understanding of human nature, creative language, and the lasting impact of literature and theater worldwide. Now, I'm going to tell you a short part of the classic love story, Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. So, Romeo and Juliet is a tragic love story that was set in Verona, Italy. It follows Romeo Montague and Juliet Capulet, two young people who fall in love in secret, and they got married without their family's knowledge, hoping that their love will end the feud. So, Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet to explore the powerful emotion of young love, the consequences of family conflicts, and the idea of people controlling people's lives. And he was inspired by older love story and wanted to show how love and hate can lead to both beauty and tragedy. That's it for my part. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
European literature simply means the body of written works produced in the language and cultural traditions of Western Europe. It isn't tied to one country or era, but rather reflects a series of historical periods like classical, medieval, Renaissance, Enlightenment, Romantic, modern, etc., each of which brought forward its own famous authors, poets, and landmark contexts. Victor Hugo was a towering figure of 19th century French literature, the influential novelist, poet, and dramatist whose work combined sweeping historical epic with a deep concern of social justice. Les Miserables is a novel by Victor Hugo that tells the story of Jean Valjean, a former prisoner who tries to live a good life but is constantly pursued by Inspector Havard. The story explores themes of justice, love, sacrifice, and redemption in 19th century France. It also highlights the struggles of the poor and the fight for freedom and hope.
Good morning everyone, I am Princess Julie Shones and I will tackle about my topic, Northern European Literature. Ang Northern European Literature ay binubuo ng mga akdang pampanitikan mula sa mga countries tulad ng Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Iceland at Norway. Kasama rin dito ang British, as less malawak ang saklaw ng mga akda mula sa sinaunang epiko at sagas hanggang sa makabagong nobela at wala. Mga akdang ito ay nakasulat sa North Germanic languages pero may mga akdang sinulat din sa Latin at iba pang wika noon. Dumako naman tayo kay August Strindberg noong 1849-1912. Si August Strindberg ay isang Swedish playwright, novelista at essayist. Kilala siya sa malalim na epekto niya sa modernong teatro, galing siya sa pamilya ng mga ngalakal at nakaranas ng emosyonal na pagsubok sa murang edad, lalo na nung namatay ang kanyang nanay nung siya ay 13 years old pa lamang. Ang mga karanasang ito ay naging inspirasyon niya ng madalas na madilim at masalimuot na tema sa kanyang mga gawa. Dumako naman tayo kay Miss Julie. Isa sa pinakakilalang obra ni Strindberg ay ang Miss Julie. Isang one-act at naturalistic tragedy, nangyari ang kwento sa Sweden sa gabi ng midsummer sa isang motor ng isang count. Umiikot ang kwento sa masalimuot na relasyon ni Miss Julie, anak ng count at ni Jean, ang valet ng kanyang ama. Tinalakay sa dula ang class struggle, gender roles at societal expectation noong 19th century. Ipinakita rin dito kung paano ang kapangyarihan at posisyon sa lipunan ay nakakaapekto sa ugnay ng mga tao, lalo na sa pagitan ng mga babae at lalaki.
Writer, who originated from Argentina, is the one of the most prolific, relevant, and influential in the whole Spanish-speaking world, with renowned writers such as Jorge Luis Borges, Julio Cortázar, Leopoldo Lugones, and Ernesto Sabato. Next one, we have Manuel Puig or Puig, 1932 to 1990, was an Argentine novelist and screenwriter known for using pop culture, cinema, and unconventional narrative technique. His work often of sexuality, repression, and authoritarianism in Latin American societies. Next one, we have Kiss of the Spider of Woman, The novel tells the story of two cellmates, Molina and a guy man who escaped from romantic movie fantasy, and Valentin, a politic revolutionary. Next, we have Mexico. Mexican literature stands as one of the most prolific, relevant, influential within Spanish language literary tradition, alongside of those Spain and Argentine. And this rich, diverse literary tradition spans centuries and encompassing a wide array of genres, themes, and voices that reflect of complexity Mexican societies and culture. Juan Rulfo, 1970 to 1986, was an American writer, photographer, and screenwriter. Although he published a few works, he considered one of Latin America's greatest literary figures. His writing captured rural Mexico, loneliness, and death with haunting realism and poetic style. Pedro Páramo. A young man named Juan Pedro traveled to the ghost town of Comala to find his father, Pedro Páramo. There he encountered a legacy of power, violence, and unfulfilled dreams.
Everyone, my name is Sheena Lorian Labrague, but you can call me Sheena. Today, I'm going to report of traditions in Africa. Music is a form of communication. It plays a functional role in Africa. Music is parts of Africa. Music is they use or they used for communicating by the people. In African society, music is more than entertainment. It is a powerful way to communicate the passage or emotions and tradition. It plays important in many role of parts their lives, like marriage, plays to celebrate union and after celebrating or blessing. Second is birth, celebrates welcoming the new baby. Rites and Passage. This is a song during the ceremonies marked from childhood and hunting. This is a song encourage hunter and bring the group together. Politics. This is the music. Just share your opinions, support leaders, and protest. Music, it connects people and express important cultural values. Next, dance. Dance is a key part of African literature. Traditions, and it's used to festival, ritual, storytelling. It's just a movement. It is a communicate feelings, message, and stories like symbolic gesture. This is a movement having meaning like showing their strength, joy, and emotions. Marks of costume and body painting. This is the drama dancers that represent their spirit, animals, and source. Props like stick, drums, and shields like help them to tell the story. Dance is the language of Africa, culture full of meaning and traditions. Arts and culture. Our African arts and symbols, the meaning is used, teach, remember, historical, honor people's spirit, like a couple, symbolize unity and family. A woman and child, they show how important the childhood, the motherhood, and the nurturing. A man and a weapon or animal. Represent is a strength, hunting or protection. A stranger. Symbolize someone outside the community by the visitor, trades, and even the another people. Art and structure is the African our full culture, identity, and meaning. They are stories just like in music and dance. This is my next topic in African. African literature includes many different forms of storytelling, but spoken or oral and written powerful way for African to express their history, culture, struggles, and identity. Oral tradition, this is our passed down by words on your mouth. This is shelled elder storytellers or community leaders. This oral they use is to communicate to the people. Like folk tales, this is story animals or a people that teach in the life lesson or morals. Proverbs, this is a short way saying of that offer advance of the truth. Next, this is a written literature. A more African begin with written. They create many types of literature such as novels, poetries, drama, and autobiography. Novels is a long fictional story often exploring of African life, history, and social. Poetry. This is a poet expressing deep emotion, truth or reflection in creative way. This is the way to express your opinion, your emotion by creating a poetry. Autobiography. A person life stories and written by themselves, often sharing their experience, their personalities, and lastly, drama. Plays are performed on a stage, often dealing with social and political issues. African literature uses stories and oral and culture to explore who Africans are, who is African, where they come from, and how their culture been shaped by history and change. That's all my report today. Thank you.
Now let's proceed to East African, which is from Kenya. East African literature encompasses a diverse body of written and oral works from the region, including novels, plays, poetry, and oral traditions. Now, let us all know the author of East Africa, and that is Grace Ogot. Grace Ogot was born in May 15, 1930 and died at March 18, 2015. She is a pioneering Kenyan author known for her exploration of Luo culture and the clash between tradition and modernity. One of the book of Grace Ogot is The Promised Land, and the book is all about a young farmer and his wife who have migrated to Tanzania from Kenya. And next is the West Africa, which is from Nigeria. West African literature encompasses a rich body of written works primarily in English that explores themes of colonialism, post-colonialism, identify the cultural heritage. Is a tradition that has evolved from oral storytelling to include diverse genres like novels, plays, and poetry. And the author of this West African literature is Chinua Achebe. Chinua Achebe is born in November 16, 1930 and who died in March 21, 2013. He was a prominent Nigerian writer and a key figure in modern African literature. He was best known for his groundbreaking novel and also known as the father of African literature.
One of the book of Chinua Achebe is Things Fall Apart. This book is all about follows the story of Okonwo, a revered member of the native tribe, and his life is torn apart by the negative effects of colonialism. And that's all for my part, and thank you so much for listening.